Salute to all the real ones out there. It's your boy Mike coming at you again with another video. Yo, y'all like the content I've been dropping? Direction on my channel was set it in. I need you to like, comment, subscribe, and share my videos with anybody else you think may benefit from them, all right? Now, today's topic is going to be called future predictions, all right? Future predictions. And basically what I'm going to do is lay out some of the observations I've made about how I see things are going in the current state of affairs across many different aspects of life. And yeah, that's how we're gonna rock it. So first things first, we're gonna talk about technology. And what I can predict for the future in 3 solid points is, number one, you guys are seeing how AI is coming to dominate. I think over time it will become more evasive, and on a base level, it will replace many humans in the workforce. But on another note, you're gonna see it will be such an integral part of our lives that people won't really be able to disconnect. All right. So I also think, as a point number 2, social media will vastly benefit those who use it for business, but it will destroy all of the people who use it for entertainment. And this kind of plugs into another point that I was making in my last video, where I was talking about reverting back to the equilibrium. You know, even a person like me who's well aware of what's happening in the world, and I make a vigilant effort to reduce my screen time, I'm seeing that it is somewhat of a trap. The minute you watch one video that you like, you'll now find a justification to watch the next. And before you know it, it's been about an hour that's gone past where you originally planned to, let's say, come home from work, change, take a shower, and then get into the flow of the next things you wanted to do. But here you are still sitting on your bed with your work uniform, like watching the next video. And it's like you have to mentally catch yourself from watching the next one after that. So even a person like me is fighting that. So I can only imagine how it is for the person who shoulder shrugs and doesn't even have a quota to read books, or doesn't even care about how much screen time. They just use it as a way to fill in the gaps of any time they're sitting idle. The person who, as soon as they pull up to a traffic light, they feel the need to go grab their phone. Like, it's probably such an ingrained habit that they can't even see not doing that. You see what I mean? And then lastly, as far as technology, I feel that this will give a dumbed down effect where you'll come across too many people who aren't really thinking clearly. They will have a lot of clouds in their minds, and it's like they will be so consumed with all the stuff that they just watched at such a fast pace with all this color and vibrancy that when they're in the real world, they will be like a shell of their former selves, because they won't have a way to really communicate for their own thinking, because it's too much entertainment that's flowing through their frontal lobe right now. You know what I mean? So you're going to cross a lot of people who maybe 15 years ago, or without so much social media or technological exposure, they would have an opinion. They would be able to converse, but you're going to see that a lot of people are going to be like cloudy even in their own thoughts. You're going to be able to tell by their communication. It won't be clear, precise, to the point. It will seem like it's being distracted, or they're having a hard time going from point A to point B within a conversation. Next point is going to be about the economy. Future predictions show me that you're going to experience more of what you call the gig economy. And that basically means everything being on demand. So, you know, I have a video in the back on my timeline, and it's called delayed gratification. Delayed gratification is very necessary for anybody who wants to achieve something worthwhile in life. You know, the universe that we're living in, Earth, is a very dense planet, and it's regulated by certain rules. So you hear all these mantras like practice makes perfect, or it takes at least 10,000 hours to master one thing. You see, and we're in a time where there's so much information being flooded to the average person. It's hard to make the distinction between, you know, like deciding to master something. It's hard to decide to actually even pick one thing that you want to master, because right when you get started, you're going to be hit with the next thing that you could possibly be doing. You're going to get hit with somebody telling you about following your passions and stuff. But what is your actual passion? It takes time to discover who you want to be. And when everything is on demand, it's hard for you to ever like do that soul searching project on yourself to determine what you even want out of life. you're always distracted and pulled in so many different directions that it's going to be really hard. So that is one aspect that I see happening with the economy. Everything's going to be on demand. No matter what you can imagine, there is some type of app or service that's offering it. At the click of a button, it will be delivered to your front door. Secondly, I think this gig economy, once again, going back to point number one, the people who understand that this is happening and they get on board with offering some type of product, service, or they invest in companies that are doing that, they are going to flourish. But it's going to be a huge mass of people that are going to be getting squeezed into an inch of their financial survival in this new economy, because it's going to be going so fast, and there are going to be so many people who need technological skills in order to flourish or even get hired on, that there will be a huge mass of people that don't even have anything to do because they're not like savvy enough to be productive in this workforce that's going to come. Like I said, AI is going to replace a lot of like manual jobs that you don't really need to think. Companies are going to be incentivized to put robots in a place where they would normally have to pay humans. Humans are normally the most expensive aspect of running a business. So if you can cut them out and put in robots who won't complain, won't call in sick, and won't like be inefficient, then you're in a good spot as a company. But the economy is also going to boom, but you're going to have a huge part of the labor force that's just going to be stuck twiddling their thumbs without any real benefit to add or value to bring to the economy. So I can see that coming down the pipe. Third aspect of my future predictions is going to be dating and relationships, which you can definitely see this now, but I think good relationships will become increasingly rare over time, almost like a thing of the past, where people will talk about it and wish they were around to have seen it. And that's where that saying comes in place, where it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved. And I think that's going to be the case for many of the people in the future. It's going to be, they will have never even loved. So they won't even know what they're missing. They won't even understand like what it's like to, let's say, talk to a girl, get her number, get comfortable with her, go through like these phases in a relationship, and then have something that's solid, that stands the test of time. I think those times are coming to an end. And it's because men are not really seeing an incentive of dealing with the modern woman that we see walking the streets today. Unfortunate, but you can see it coming down the pipe. Like, it's something that's exploded all over media, social media, when you see passport bros and all these movements where dudes are understanding that it's really not worth it in the Western world, at least, to even pursue long-term dating or relationships with women. It's more like a hook culture that's started since the advent of social media, and it's only snowballing down the hill in this current time. Also, another aspect that I see with future predictions with dating and relationships is that there will just be lost incentives for men to really deal with women, or even vice versa. But of course, I'm talking more to men, because we're the one who are getting targeted over the last 40 years with all these campaigns about what we're not doing and how we're not offering women what they expect. And, the burden of performance has always been on men. So I'm talking more to y'all. And I can understand why the average dude just has, like, really, it's not appealing whatsoever to even think about wanting to get with today's, let's say, modern Western women. I wouldn't, like, even for real, if I was single, living in, let's say, America, I would not even entertain American women. I would seriously only be focused on doing my, 6 months of Spartan self-discipline where I'm working out, taking care of business, spending a lot of time alone, and then when it would come time for me to, take vacation from my job, I'd already have a country that I'm headed towards with probably a woman that I'm talking to when I touch down, and, we'll spend time together. Like, it'll be like my distant girlfriend, but I won't even be attached to her. I would just mainly be, and it wouldn't be sex tourism, because I'm not going to fly to Brazil and go tricking in like these little spots. It would just mainly be, I would understand that the Western world is not really offering me much as far as my female counterpart is concerned. So passport bros will probably be my only viable option. Lastly, future predictions. I think it's going to get too expensive to really start a family, because we're seeing that right now where, even in my case, I've been with my wife for all these years, but when people ask us, oh, you guys don't want to have kids, this and that, I'm like, hey, if it happens, it happens. I'm happy, but if she tells me that she's pregnant. But until that happens, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't be socking away as much money as possible. Because even if I do get blessed with a child and my wife is pregnant, I'm still going to know in the back of my head that a child is very expensive. And I'll feel happy because she and I have proven that, hey, we fit together and we're financially very well off. But what if that wasn't my case? What if we were still, kind of struggling, or, we were just kind of barely above water? I would feel nervous about the fact that she said she has a kid, because I would be thinking, damn, what can I really offer this child if I haven't put enough money away before they even came? So I could see that it's going to be too expensive for the average person to want to start a family. And plus you have masculine women, you have feminized men. So the polarity between the sexes is already, let's say, at risk. Another thing when it comes down to future predictions, all right, so you got the power dynamic between countries. And long story short, I'm not going to go into like a political rant about this stuff. I'm just going to say, I think the Middle East, Asia, and BRICS will rise monumentally. In these next 10, 20, 30 years, America will do what they can to like stop it or limit its progress. And America will also see to it that it still is at the top of the hierarchy, but it will not be able to prevent those factions from coming together and actually developing a lot of momentum over these next years. Also, I think the Western so-called first world, it will fall after a long period of just stagnation, because that's what's happening right now. If you look at countries like Germany or the whole entire Europe, you see that Germany is like the last bastion of hope for Europe, even though even Germany is facing a lot of economic challenges, with immigration and the fact that they have not been able to transition from industry, being an industrialized nation that produces hard metal goods. They have not made the transition into technology. So that's keeping them stagnant. And also, they have a socialist system that stifles innovation and keeps big companies from wanting to come there and invest because of all this bureaucratic system that they have in place. Like, if you're a big company like Tesla, you're not going to go to Germany when you see all the fucking bureaucracy and red tape that prevents you from actually just getting your cars launched into that country. You'll just say fuck it and pivot to the next country that's less restrictive. So that's hurting all of Europe. But when you think of a country like, let's say China is like literally the number 2 as far as the world power. Either that or Russia's in that place. But if you think about the fact that every country is relying on Chinese-made goods, and you think about how China is expanding into Africa and creating all these infrastructure projects, you can pretty much guarantee that there's no way to really stop their rise. So that's going to be something you'll see, is that Western world will stagnate, and then the other quote-unquote second or third world countries will actually continue gaining progress. And I also think that in these next years, you're going to see a movement of people kind of like passport bros, but it's basically going to be people who understand what I'm talking about, and they put themselves in position to move globally, right? So you have channels like Nomad Capitalist, I forget his first name, Andrew Henderson. Yeah, he's the author of the book Nomad Capitalist, which I read a few years back. And what he's saying is totally true. Like, you're going to see a rise of people who want to have multiple passports, who don't want to just stay in one country and live and die there. You're going to see a huge flux of people who are going to do what Nomad Capitalist recommends, which is to go where you're treated best. There will be huge groups of people in these next years who will be willing to ditch their American passport, for example, in order to have 2 or 3 different backup passports where they can travel freely within those countries. And they will be extracting their wealth out of the Western countries in order to put it to where economies are starting to boom. All right, as far as money, right, that's my other aspect of future predictions. Crypto will boom. All right, crypto is here to stay. I don't care what anybody wants to say about it. Even if you don't understand it, it doesn't mean that it's going to not exist because you don't understand it. It is here as an alternative to fiat currency. The idea of a government being able to just print money without penalty and tax you and do all these things and always have all these restrictions in place and quantitative easing and fluctuating interest rates and, you know, unbelievable amounts of inflation. Like that system is toxic. All right. And it has been proven to lead your country into ruin. America just hasn't felt it yet, but you have to understand it's hard for you to even fathom how much debt we're in. Right. So when you have a system like crypto, it's based off mathematical principles and scarcity. There one day will be where there's no more Bitcoin even produced. So that means anybody who got their hands on it and held it is going to be very, very wealthy in the next years. You don't have to believe in crypto. There's already subtle signs that it's here to stay. If you look at El Salvador, I challenge you to do a little bit of research on El Salvador and understand that is one country who's like leading the charge when it comes down to cryptocurrency really being a viable option compared to fiat currency. Also, subtle signs. I was in Subway months back in Cologne, Germany, and I looked over and saw a Bitcoin ATM that was there and it functions and it works. I even toggled with it just to see, damn, is this a real thing? And it really is a real thing. And if you have a Coinbase, Robinhood account, any type of account where your crypto is based, you can actually hook that up and extract money. That's a subtle sign that shit is here to stay. So crypto will continue to boom. Also, the rich will get richer. That's an age-old adage. And it's just the truth, because rich people are always looking at ideas, facts, business. They focus on ideas and economy and things like this. They don't focus on people. You know, rich people understand how money is made. They want to be in the fray of where activity is taking place, you know, with economics. Meanwhile, poor people kind of like tend to look at people, look at celebrities, look at, you know, trends and stuff like this. Rich people focus on the hard things that are known to work and bring value. So they're going to get richer. And the poor, of course, will get poorer, because you're going to, once again, have, like I said before, this rise of AI is going to put a lot of people just on their ass, because they're not going to be ready to transition into a world that's actually more technologically savvy, right? So I can see governments are probably going to try to shoot for universal basic income. And that's going to be the death blow to a lot of people right there. Even though it seems like the government's helping, you're basically going to have socialism, you know? And that's going to stifle innovation. And basically it's going to put you in a position where like most of the world is going to be somewhat like Germany on that system, where the variance between groups of people is shrunk. It's going to shrink. You won't have a huge gap between like the very, very rich and the very, very poor. You actually will, but for the masses of people, they're all going to be like in this little gray area where they won't make much more than $1,000 a month, and they won't make much. Put it like this: they're going to make anywhere between about 1,000 to 3,000 euros a month. That's going to be most people on Earth. There's going to be a lot of people that will find their ways on the upper end. And there may be some people who also shrink to the lower end, but it's just basically going to increase the wedge between the rich and the poor over these next years. I'm dead serious. And that's the reason why even Andrew Tate said, if you don't get rich within these next 10 years, it might be a wrap for you. I'm not trying to speak doom and gloom, but if you just look at kind of like all the information I'm throwing out to you, you could see how once they issue universal basic income, it's going to be a wrap for a lot of humans. Also, when it comes down to culture, long story short, the Western culture is going to continue to decay. It's going to go more into a chaotic direction, while the Eastern philosophies and religions and all this other stuff, it's going to get more fortified, because it's going to be proven to stand the test of time. You got to think America is just, for example, 250 some odd years. So what we think we're pushing on the world and what we think makes us a superpower, that's going to be the same thing that's going to undo itself at the hinges. Meanwhile, you're going to have other countries like, you know, that have been around for thousands of years. Whatever they believe in, it's going to get more fortified as they see the Western countries starting to fall off. All right. When it comes down to religion, you're going to see that in the Western world, it's going to get warped beyond recognition, because it's already compromised. Whereas in the eastern side of the world, once again, it will be reinforced. And there will be a lot of people over these next 20 years that are going to convert to the eastern side of things. They're going to go more towards becoming Muslim, or more towards Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. Like, all those religions are going to start to gain a lot more converts. And as far as the health and welfare of the masses is my last point when it comes down to future predictions. You're going to see a lot more people who are weaker in the mind, body, and spirit. Across the board, they're going to be weaker. But the phone that they carry will be more technologically advanced than anything that scientists could have predicted 50 years ago would exist and be available to the regular person out in public. So the stuff that they have will get more advanced, but where they are in their mind, body, and spirit will continue to fall. You'll also see a lot more humans that are just straight up detached from history, reality, and their own fucking destiny. Because once again, as I said earlier, you have to do soul searching in order to even be curious about those things. You're not going to have much of a interest for history when everything on your phone has you so distracted. You're not going to do very well just in reality, because reality is too slow paced and boring, and it doesn't have enough vibrancy and color and novelty as you scrolling on your phone. And then you also have your destiny. In order for you to determine what your destiny is, you have to be the ship on the water that decides, I'm going to implement my captain, which is your higher consciousness, to get me to the island that I want to go. You have to navigate your own ship instead of being a rudderless ship on this ocean of life. But most people are too distracted to do that soul search. You're going to see also a huge faction of the world that is just going to be straight up propagandized beyond recognition. Like, they won't ever be able to think critically. And you saw that just recently with the elections in the United States. Donald Trump getting elected was so polarizing that there are literally family members that just don't even talk to each other anymore based on who voted for which party. You got people at work that are literally walking on eggshells, scared to make jokes or scared to talk because it's kind of come out who's voted for who. So you literally have divide and conquer just from an election. And it's mind blowing to see it on ground as a person who thinks critically. You're also going to see people who are going to be dull in everything about their personality, because all they're going to be on is a constant quest for entertainment. Their dopamine receptors will be so fried from constant exposure to social media and the like. They won't have any real value to bring to a social interaction. And the last point, which is more of a positive point because I don't want to make everything sound so negative. The small groups of actualized critical thinking individuals will damn near have free reign on this planet. Because they'll be the ones who will understand some of these trends, some of these developments that I'm speaking about, and they'll know how to pivot and put themselves in a position to flourish financially, spiritually, emotionally, and even physically in some cases. If you're one of the guys that are listening to my channel right now and you've already cut out like pork, you've already made changes to your diet, you're going to benefit. If you're already working out and taking care of your health and being more serious about, your diet, not even just food, but also what you consume and who you're around, you're protecting your aura and your energy, you will flourish in these years to come. If you're already open in your mind to see that, hey, AI is coming, this is coming, that is coming, I need to put myself in a position where I'm able to leverage my skills that I develop over these next years so that I always will have employment, or I invest in companies that I see are on the rise because they are dominating certain aspects of AI or technology, and you put your money in those companies, you will flourish in the years to come. If you're the dude who is in a relationship with a good woman and you're doubling down on treating her right and you're making sure that y'all got everything going, or if you're a single dude who you're already detached from the toxic feminists that you see walking around in the Western world and you decide you want to become a passport bro, anything that puts you in position to, let's say, pivot around the huge wave of changes that's coming, you're going to flourish in the years to come. So this video is not meant to make everybody feel like I look at the world in such a negative way. It's more just to show you that I see a lot of stuff coming that I don't think other people can see. And I'm sharing this with my audience so that you know, not only can I connect with like minds, but also to give y'all like a subtle confirmation that if you feel anything that I'm talking about here, you're on the right path. You know, and I'm no guru, but I've seen a lot of things come down the pipe even 10 years ago, and I'm glad I moved the way I did back then, because now I find myself benefiting. So it's the same thing when I look at my investments and things like this. Years ago, I picked up the books and put myself in position. And I'm patting my younger self on the back for thinking that way, even physically. You know, working out and getting into yoga and fitness and holistic health and eating right and cutting out all this stuff from my diet. Like, I'm benefiting by aging backwards in a sense. So I want y'all to do the same. So with that being said, y'all like, comment, subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all on the next one.